Good afternoon to you. I'm Danilo Evangelista, and welcome to our tropical weather outlook video for today, August 8th, Friday, 2025. And we have quite a bit to go over today, including why these tropical waves, we're really going to start to see things kick into high gear. I'm going to show you especially interests from the latest model run of the GFS, which is what I have as the title card right now, and why I think this is a sign of overall things becoming much more favorable in the Atlantic, and things will probably begin to develop very quickly, especially with these tropical waves here in the Atlantic over the next several days. I'll get into all of that, including more. So let's start off right now with the National Hurricane Center homepage right now. As of the 2 p.m. advisory, we have still our two areas of interest here. Obviously, no more Dexter since that has completely become a post-tropical system. But we still have our area off the southeast coast here, which this is probably not going to develop anymore. Not really looking strong, and conditions are just not as favorable for development right now off the, off the east coast. So this we probably won't have to worry about tropical wise. And then we have Invest 96L. Things have been slightly downtrending for 96L, but I'm still not completely ruling this off yet that this might still develop in the subtropics, although as you can tell by the forecasts, development area that's highlighted here from the National Hurricane Center, this probably still does have a chance of potentially developing and becoming a weak system. I don't want to do that while in the subtropics here, but probably out to sea and away from any concern here, especially in the Western Atlantic, along the east coast of the United States, and in the Caribbean. As I've showed you, and I have on the title card, models are starting to become much more aggressive on a wave that has just emerged off the coast of Africa and is emerging off the coast of Africa right now. In fact, the GFS model has development of this tropical wave, and I'll show you on the satellite in just a little bit what I'm talking about, but the GFS is actually showing development literally within the next 24 to 48 hours, and obviously you can't be so sure of that since the GFS tends to be trigger happy after all, but I think it's an overall sign of things becoming more favorable for development here in the Eastern Atlantic, and there's definitely a lot of concern, especially over the next week to 10 days of activity developing and potentially getting further west enough, especially with the help of the ridging out here, might be more conducive that we will have to watch the Western Atlantic for potential tropical development and for things to be able to move towards the Western Atlantic. And obviously that is a huge issue because that is where we all live, and I'll go over all of that in the next coming slides. Really quickly though, just want to bring you to the Eastern Pacific because obviously there is stuff going on there today. We have Tropical Storm Ivo, which is 60 miles per hour, so strengthening a little bit. Minimum central pressure 1,001 millibars. We have Tropical Storm Henriette. This is probably not going to be much of a concern. Neither of these storms are going to be really that much of a concern, although Ivo is slightly closer to the Mexican coastline, so you probably are experiencing some showers and thunderstorms associated with it, but no direct impact obviously expected. And same with Henriette. And in fact, I'll just show you both their cones really quickly. Ivo going to move off to the west away from the Mexican coastline and only remain a tropical storm. And Henriette is right now on the verge of weakening and dissipating for a little bit, but long term, very interestingly enough, the National Hurricane Center expects that this will actually regenerate and potentially strengthen into a hurricane as we get into early next week. So Henriette might not have its life completely over with yet. So we'll definitely be watching to see how things might be interesting with that. But none of these are going to impact land, Hawaii, or Mexico alike. So no need to worry for there. Here's a satellite image of the Atlantic right now. And here's just to get an idea of what things are looking like. Lots of convective activity here off the East Coast. And our area of interest here is embedded somewhere along the East Coast, although, again, not really much development expected. And here's our big, very monstrous tropical wave that's moving off the East Coast, or moving off the West Coast of Africa, not the East Coast of the United States, but the West Coast of Africa. And you can see quite a very aggressive wave that's moving off there. And in fact, I'll zoom in here on the Eastern Atlantic just to show you what things are looking like. And you can definitely see this wave has a lot of energy associated with it. And everybody's talking about this tropical wave that is now moving off the coast of Africa. In fact, I think maybe officially the wave is already just off the coast. But either ways, it's either already off the coast or nearing coming off the coast, and the models are very, very aggressive on this wave. And actually, in the distance here towards the west, you can see Invest 96L. And in fact, I'll zoom in on 96L for a moment here. Very small wave out here in the, don't want to, not let it, oh, this is annoying. Whatever, but you can mostly see the satellite loop here. 96L developing, well, not developing, but definitely has an interesting big convective burst that it's had here in recent frames. And the chance for 96L to develop is still not completely done. It's just probably not going to be a strong storm for one, and for two, I'll show you with the track guidance right now, going to stay well out to sea, well in the central eastern Atlantic, not for any of us to worry about, which is obviously a good thing. But the chance for 96L to develop is still there, but it's definitely, at least in the next week, not going to be one of our main concerns in the tropics to go over. And once again, it's really going to be on this easterly wave here that's just coming off the coast of Africa. And I'll show you the model guidance for it because they are definitely all aggressive. But just in terms of conditions-wise, here's as to why I really think this will be an interesting wave that we need to watch. Here's the mid-level moisture from the CIMSS website, the University of Wisconsin tropical weather page, and I like to use this website obviously for the 850 millibar vorticity maps that I use, the Saharan air map, and of course this mid-level moisture map, which I use from time to time. And notice one of two things. One, just how much dry air we still have in the Western Atlantic, especially going into the Caribbean here, and obviously still quite a bit of it in the subtropics. But notice too, just off the coast of Africa and in the Eastern Atlantic, notice just how much more moist, I guess you could say, the atmosphere is, especially compared to the dry air that we have in the Western Atlantic. And this is kind of a signature of how the atmosphere was a few days ago. This is probably still some Saharan air that's moving through the Western Atlantic that probably came off the coast of Africa some time ago. But since then, in the Eastern Atlantic, things have become a lot more moist. The atmosphere is a lot more favorable for convective activity and tropical development. And again, a lot of this is a result, one, of Invest 96L being the wave that probably helped moisten the atmosphere a little bit more throughout the MDR. So I guess you could say 96L is a little bit of a sacrificial wave, but still trying to produce convective activity. So we'll see if it still tries to develop. But two, as I've been saying, the MJO was going to move in, especially through the first week of August, and conditions were going to become more favorable after that. And this is the result of it. Conditions are now starting to become more favorable in the Eastern Atlantic. Sea surface temperatures are definitely very warm. Pretty much from the west coast of Africa all throughout a very large chunk of the MDR still have the far northeastern MDR, Eastern Atlantic, that's still slightly under 26 degrees Celsius. But that's definitely going to warm up in the coming weeks. I wouldn't worry about that. But pretty much the entire MDR, at least 26 degrees Celsius, which is the threshold we need for tropical development. And it just gets progressively warmer as you head further west, especially into the Western Atlantic here, the Bahamas, the Gulf, right off the southeast coast, 28, 29, even 30 degrees Celsius. And I alluded to earlier, the ridging pattern looks very concerning, especially over the next few weeks. So A lot of what will develop here is not just going to take an easy track out to sea and not out of and be completely out of our hair. But a lot of the model guidance is especially showing with these waves that are coming off of Africa. A lot of them are going to move in a much more westerly direction and are going to be low riders, which basically meaning they'll probably remain at lower latitudes, which will make it harder for them to be able to turn out to sea. And just look at how progressively warmer it gets, especially as you get towards the Western Atlantic. So lots of things to be very concerned about. Not scared, but concerned that you'll want to keep on top of things over the next few weeks. And again, this is all happening because of the MJO, as I said it would be. Here's the latest MJO map of rising motion as of August 8th, and this is from the Michael Ventris website. If you know Michael Ventris, really good person when it comes to tracking MJO, and he is, I think, has a PhD, although I'm not entirely sure, although I think he does. But this is a website by Michael Ventris, and this is the rising motion right now, all in the Eastern Atlantic and over Africa. And as a result, as I just showed you, a lot more of a favorable moist atmosphere for convective activity. It's kind of interesting and kind of fascinating how all this is coming together. And this is exactly what I said would happen over the last few weeks, and it is exactly what's happening. Favorable conditions are now setting up over the Atlantic, and as a result, things are going to get very active here over the next few weeks. And I'll just show you the European ensembles, and then I'll show you the GEFS ensembles in a little bit. But you see it in the ensemble members. We have 96L that kind of goes out to sea here. Another interesting thing that maybe might happen off the East Coast, at least according to the European ensembles, but we have 96L that goes out to sea. I guess is our sacrificial wave because it's the last wave of the more, unconducive, unfavorable environment that we had in the Atlantic a few days ago. But now that the MJO is moving in, the Eastern Atlantic is starting to become much more favorable. And you could already see that with this next wave that moves off of Africa. Very aggressive signal on the European. And obviously you cannot, take very seriously the specific track of what's going to happen with this wave, or even if it's going to develop, because, still might not develop. But just notice here with these ensemble members, especially as we head towards the 7 to 10 days, just goes on a straight westerly track and only barely begins to, turn off to the north very slightly, but it stays very west. And notice the high pressure here over the northern Atlantic remains very, very strong. And I'll show you with the GFS ensembles too, or both of these are the European ensembles. Let me actually bring the GFS really quickly, doing this live on video so you can see how I put my videos together. All right, here's the GFS ensembles, and then here's the GFS model, which I'll show you in a little bit. But the GFS ensembles, on the other hand, they only go out to, this is the 12Z, barely loaded. Oh, goddamn. All right, let me do this one more time for you because I want to show you the 0Z, because this European ensembles is the 0Z. And then let me just show you the 0Z for comparison of the GEFS ensembles. Let's see, will this actually load this time? Let's see. Yes, it does. It loads all the way. Oh, I still got only the European. Whatever. I'm just going to move on to the GFS, and this is the highlight of the day. So much so that it's my title card. Just notice what happens here on the GFS. And I'm very skeptical about this, but literally, this same way that I've been talking about that's very aggressive right now, the 12Z GFS rapidly develops this, and already within the next 48 hours is a full-blown tropical cyclone in the Eastern Atlantic. And then notice over the next week, just notice here how this wave just moves westward, and to the north of it we have a very, very strong high pressure, which continues to build and guides this wave, which on the GFS, by the time it gets to around the Western Atlantic, is already a full-blown hurricane. It just continues to guide it further to the west. We don't have an easy path out to sea. As Eric Webb said a few days ago, the pattern in the northern Atlantic does not look like an easy, recurve pattern. And you're already kind of seeing that, especially if you look at the GFS here over the next week or so, as we have this wave that develops here in the tropical Atlantic. So pretty much meaning we're going to have to keep an eye on things quite a bit, because not only could it get interesting in terms of development, but impacts wise and potential concerns to land and populations. Things might get interesting in the tropics as well. And again, I've all been saying that this would happen since the beginning of last month in July, and even before then, that as we got into August, things would become more favorable. And the pattern as well definitely looks favorable too, that we'll probably see impacts. And we'll have to watch very closely for that over the next week, if not longer, especially if this wave ends up forming very quickly. This might be one of those systems that we have to watch for multiple weeks on end before they approach the Western Atlantic and approach civilization. But we'll have to see how things progress here over the next week. But with that being said, I'm going to end it off for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. And you'll especially want to subscribe, as we'll be continuing to do these videos every single day. And that's especially important given that things will get very interesting over the next week here in the Atlantic. So please make sure to subscribe. Share this video with family, friends as well, and anybody who might find this kind of content interesting. And also be sure to enjoy the rest of your day. Stay safe. Peace, love, and kindness to you all. As always, I'll be back with more tomorrow.